Hello and welcome to the Business of Meeting podcast. I'm your host, Eric Rosenberg. Over the years, I've had the privilege of helping businesses in the meetings and event industry grow and succeed. And I'm excited to share that experience with you. If you feel alone and overwhelmed, and if you're looking to take your business to the next level, improve your strategy and sales, and connect with like-minded professionals, you are in the right place. I invite you to visit eventbusinessformula.com and join our community of event business owners dedicated to exponential growth. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Business of Meeting podcast. And today I have the great pleasure of speaking with another entrepreneur. She had an amazing career. She owns her own business. She knows what it is to have a sleepless night and then always be ready to tackle the unexpected. Obviously, business owner, manager. She is traveling all the time. So I'm very lucky to speak today with Lisa Gregory, who's the founder and CEO of Gregory Event Services. Lisa, thank you so much in between travel to take the time to speak with me.
Of course, Eric. Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to dive in.
Wonderful. So let's go and let's start with my favorite first question for every guest I have. I try to have different questions, but the first one and the last one are always the same. What is your journey? How did you come to this industry?
Yeah. So for event planning and just really being an entrepreneur, it all starts from childhood. So I have my mother and I have my father. My mom is a school teacher.
Uh
My dad
huh.
is an entrepreneur. I am the perfect combination of both of those humans. So my mom loves to nurture. She's very patient and kind. She's also loves to educate. She's very hardworking and just puts her heart and soul into everything, just like most teachers. My dad is an entrepreneur. He moves fast. He has lots of ideas. He fails forward. And he had many businesses when I was growing up. And so I got to watch and feel what that felt like. I've watched him go top, 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 and down, down, down. So through that process, I have been able to learn a ton.
Amazing. So you were very familiar with the roller coaster of being an entrepreneur at an early age.
Very much so. And I'm from a very strong family. So my background in family is very strong. Lots of very strong women. My grandmother was a force to be reckoned with. So, back in when she was younger, she was a stay at home mom. That's kind of the role. But if
Mm.
she would have grown up when I grew up, watch out, world. So I watched her. I learned from her on everything on how to produce events, and that's where I work. So I'm an event producer. We do events and marketing, global campaigns all over the world. And so from a very young age, I was watching and being led by my very strong female role models within my family.
That's awesome. And you're preaching to the choir, to a guy who has three daughters and whose mom was a dentist at a time where very few women were actually going through college. So that resonates a lot with me. And were you the one having a lemonade stand when you were a kid?
Okay, someone asked me this the other day. So I started my first company, I was probably 7 or 8.
Really?
Yeah, it was called
Wow.
Friends Forever. I even had like a heart logo with all the dots around the heart represented all my best friends. And it was a card company. So I started basically my version of Hallmark. I created my own cards. I sold cards to the neighbors, and that was my
Wow.
first business. I had a business partner. She lived across the street, and we like had campaigns where we're like, we want to make X amount of money. We're going to go to these neighbors. This neighbor already bought some cards from us, so we think they're going to buy again. And so very young, very, very young. And I think that's because of the role model of my father.
That's amazing. And how, when did you learn about our industry? As far as I'm concerned, I had no clue there was such an industry. I discovered a couple on the holidays that told me about it. But when did you discover it? And when did you, had this bug said, that's for me?
In college. So I attended the University of Oregon. They had a continuing education program in addition to my fine arts major. So I'm very creative. And then I was a project management minor. And then someone said, "Hey, you are really good at being organized. Would you go into this continuing education program?" And it was specific for event management. So I did get trained. I did practicums and research. I volunteered through the program. And through the university at a very young age, I went through what they called an introduction. And I was fascinated. I was like, wow, this is amazing. It was a massive event for all the freshmen coming in. And I thought that was the first time where I was like, this looks like something I'd want to be a part of. And then
Mm.
I, through college, got nominated to be the recruitment chair for our sorority is just a group of women coming together to, further our education and have fun. Yeah, lots of fun.
Which sorority?
Well, I was a Kappa Kappa Gamma.
Okay.
Kappa Kappa Gamma. So I did that for a year. We had the most successful recruiting class that we'd ever had. And then Panhellenic said, "Well, why don't you come try to be our vice president of Panhellenic?" And I was working and going to school at the same time, but I was like, I'm probably not going to win it. I'm sure somebody else will get it, but it'll be a really good experience for me to go and interview and go through that. And so I thought, why not? Well, I got it. So
Amazing.
I did that for a whole year, and I planned one of my very first events, like big events, was 1,400 women over a week. And so I had a team of 12 staff in college that I managed, anywhere from like operations to marketing to recruiting, all sorts of stuff. And then I had over 50 managers managing all of the 1,400 women. So I managed them. And after that, I was like, this is for me. And by the way, probably I'll never plan an event this complicated ever
Right.
again. And from there, I just, got a really good job out of school and so on. So, yeah,
That's cool. So you were supervising the rush, as it is called.
I was in charge of all the things. Yes, that I was the one human that if something went wrong, it was my fault.
Wow. And I'm glad you explained what a sorority is for anyone listening that is not from North America, because as an American born in Belgium like me, I had no clue what a sorority was, and I had no clue about the process. And I actually learned through my daughters what it is. So it's huge in terms of organization. I was a member of ISEC, a student association, and the same thing, similar to you. That's the type of, you're traveling, you're working with different culture, you're organizing events, stuff like that. So fast forward, you are going out of college, you know that an industry you want to be working. How did you find the first job to really work in this industry, or did you start directly in this industry?
Well, right out of school, I was pretty scrappy. So I had a lot of jobs. I worked for my dad's relocation department. I worked within his mortgage and loans and titles department. I worked for his marketing department. I also was a nanny for two different families, and I was a hostess at a restaurant.
Wow.
So you can only imagine the color coding in my calendar because I was waiting for my boyfriend at the time to graduate. And so I was like, I don't want a big job yet. And then I did a little bit of sales. So I dabbled in sales just locally and loved it. Loved
Hmm.
it. I was like, ooh, this is fun. This, like, I'm helping people get what they want. So that was a really good experience. And then how I got my first big job, it was in Portland, Oregon. And really, it was just word of mouth, like knowing the right people. I got in front of the right person from just someone who knew my family, recommended me. I'm super young, right? Pretty much right out of school, not even a year out of school. And it just was perfect alignment because they didn't have a lot of money, but they wanted someone really thirsty to come in and really move them from 100%, almost 100% paper. The gal
Hmm.
who had been in that job before me had been there 50 years,
Oh,
and
wow.
she had a stroke, and so they wanted someone young and nimble to come in and move everything onto the internet, get
Yep.
everything, online, and so that was my job right out of school, was to run their annual meeting, which is a huge meeting. I worked on the Portland International Auto Show. I ran all of their press and media events.
Wow.
I did their golf tournament, their all sorts of stuff, very, very, very young.
And you basically, with everything you've done before, had more experience to do that than somebody who would just move to that department, even if they've been in the business for several years. So that's interesting. So when, at that moment, you mentioned the education or the character, the DNA that you get from your mom and from your dad. When did you know that you wanted to have your own business? Because you say you started your first business 7, 8 years old. So I'm guessing you're getting into that job and wondering, should I stay here or should I start my own business?
Yeah. Well, it was at the next company I went to. So I was recruited to the next company that I went to, and it was a global marketing and PR agency. They did a massive amount of tech consortia events, and
Hmm.
I watched the business owner grow the company. And because I watched him and I watched how he kind of built things globally, not just small, but globally, it really kind of brought in my mind, I can do this.
Mm,
Like before it was kind of like, I don't know exactly, right? But if he can do it and I watched him do it, not just on a small level, but on a global level, and I was working with super talented people, I think at that point I was probably 26. At that point, I
yeah,
was like, I can do this. Like, I don't know when, but I can do it.
amazing. So I don't want to assume that's exactly the when you started, but from the moment that you said, okay, I can do that, I'm gonna have my own business. What was the reaction of your parents? Again, I would assume that your dad would say, great,
Yeah.
or to say, I know what it is and I don't want that for you.
No, so my family is mondo supportive. To give you an example, when I went to college, I thought for sure my mom was going to say, you have to be a teacher or a doctor or something. She did not. I was shocked. She said, Lisa, follow your passion. That will
Mm,
make you happy. So I got to choose my major and I got to choose my path. And it was the same for that. She was like, start your own company. I think that would be great. Like, you're so good at organizing things. Like, and same with my dad. They knew it was probably just a matter of time. But I'll tell you what changed in my daily lens of how I processed work, how I met with people, how I showed up, it shifted to how am I going to duplicate this when it's mine? How am I
mm,
going to streamline this when it's mine? And so my lens of learning over that time from 26 to about 32, my mind was constantly thinking, how can I do this better when I'm servicing my own clients? That's the first time I'd ever worked for an agency. And so that was a really good experience for me.
that's brilliant. You didn't make the same mistake I did when I started my first business. I was 28, cooperative and agency in Belgium. In the first 2 years, I had two major clients to start with. And it was like, those are my clients, this is my brand, nobody's doing it better, until I almost burn out. And now everything I'm doing, I'm thinking, okay, how can this be done better? And who else than me can actually do it so that I can focus on what I do best, what I like.
Yeah.
Uh, and that is not for me, that is not a question of age of experience. It's a question of mindset.
Yeah. So I just hired my first chief of staff. Big hire. She's learning how I do things, how I function through life. And we were talking a couple weeks ago, and she goes, Lisa, you have a growth mindset. A lot of people have a fixed mindset. This is how it has to be. There's a lot, it's a fear based. I don't have
Yes.
I was
Yes.
very lucky to grow up with a very strong family that let me fly from a young age. I played sports. I was put in high pressure, high grit situations from a very young age. I was the youngest of four. So I was always an
Mm.
observer. Also have an identical twin sister.
Oh, really?
Yep, she looks just like me. Actually, I could probably like go off camera and put her on and you wouldn't even know.
Or maybe it's your AI. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, anything's possible in these days. But I have always been growth mindset. super positive, half glass full, and then just continually, I just love to learn. I always tell myself that I almost put myself through grad school on my own
Mm,
every day.
I love it. And then the thirst for learning, that's the right mindset to have. Just one question apart, but is it true that when you have a twin sister, whatever she thinks or feels, you can think and feels as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. She could be clearly across the room and I kind of look at her, I know exactly what she's thinking. And, like even if she's having a bad day or she like sometimes she'll just call me and be like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, no, I'm having a bad day." Like it's true. It's definitely a trip for sure to be a twin.
Right. And you work together or not at all?
We do not work together. So out of my there's 4 of us siblings. We all own our own businesses.
Oh, wow. Amazing. What a family.
Yeah.
So you decide to start your own business. How is that happening? What's going on into your mind? How are you announcing that to the people you're working with? And how do you find your first clients?
That's a very good question. So I got laid off from a job. So I was
Okay.
on unemployment and I turned to my partner and I said, "Okay, we have options here. I can either stay on unemployment or I can start my own company. Whatever happens first, I'm going for. Are you on
Mm,
board?" And he said, "Absolutely. Go for it. Whatever you want to do." So within 2 weeks, so what I did is I started networking. I went to nonprofit events, I went to for profit events, I was volunteering, I was doing everything I could to get in front of people. And within 2 weeks, I got my first client.
wow.
I
How
had
did that happen?
I had that client for 5 years. I was sitting at an OHSU, which is the hospital, a very prestigious hospital in Oregon. I was sitting at a nonprofit dinner. It was a gala, and the gal next to me, we were just chatting. I was telling her about my journey, and she said, "I have the person you have to meet." She introduced me. I drove down to meet him. He hired me on the spot, and we worked together for 5 years.
Amazing. And so I always say that ideally, you should not have one client representing more than 20% of your profit, revenue, but first revenue, but definitely profit. And when you start, I mean, you have to start. So, uh,
Yes.
how conscious of that were you at that moment? And what did you do then to grow the business?
Yeah, I think my goals initially was just to learn, right? Like, again, I'm a constant learner. So I was like, okay, let's set the infrastructure of the company first. How do I do my billing? How do I do my marketing? How do I provide the best service? So I was more focused on, instead of growth, I was more focused on infrastructure. How can I
Hmm.
make this sustainable for my income, for my family, and then really for the client? Because the success is always going to be in the client referrals, right?
Yeah,
If I impress them, I do a good job, then number one, I don't have to worry about more money coming in. They'll just keep me ideally, and then they'll spread the word and go from there. Additionally, what I did is I continued the volunteering and the networking. And I felt that if I was going to work for someone, because I didn't have proven experience in having my own company, right? So if I was going to work for someone basically for free or for very affordably, really, really hard, and they were going to see that value, they would recommend me, and they did. So
absolutely.
that's what I did.
Yeah, no, that, yeah, absolutely right. And in the same time, in order to be able to do that, it's breaking the hamster wheel. And again, you didn't do the same mistake I did, which is great. But at the beginning, it was like, okay, I have a project, wonderful. Nobody does it better, blah blah blah, wonderful. Oh shoot, the project almost over. I have to find a new project. Oh, I got a new project, and it was like all the time until decided to hire people, structure, start putting process and system in place. How did you manage to serve your client and in the meantime continue to do the networking and the prospection?
Well, there's 2 points here. I have a very high tolerance for pain, and I can smile and work through it. So, me going from 30 to 60 hours a week is pretty breezy for me. And I have a huge pain tolerance. And I actually didn't know that until a CEO told me. He said, "Lisa, wow, you have a huge tolerance for pain." And I said, What do you mean a huge tolerance for pain? He goes, you can go from like here to here in 2 seconds.
Mm,
I was like, oh, you're right. So that was a superpower. And then what I did is I gave myself a goal. So if I wasn't super busy, and even if I was, I would put time in my calendar that said, okay, each week I have to meet with 5 people. Now, they don't have to be coffee all the time or a lunch or whatever, but
mhm.
5 people. Sometimes it was more, but 5 people. It could be people I know that already like love me and know that I'll do a good job. And I'm just telling them what I'm doing so they can be advocates. And it could be somebody that they know that they think I should connect. And
Ah,
that's what I did.
I love it. And those are the three things for me: the time blocking, the two pitches that you have, and the KPIs.
Yep.
It's very impressive, especially for a young entrepreneur starting their own business, to be aware of it and to do it. And that there's, I don't know any other way to grow your business, by the way. So you start doing that. It went straight into the company today, or was there a roller coaster in the process?
Well, there's always a roller coaster. There's a couple roller coasters. So I did grow the business very quickly and I did hire support, just contracting support so that with the events the seasons ebb and flow and so that was really lovely. I did go through a divorce when my kid was quite young.
I'm
And
sorry.
that happens, right? Divorce happens. And so my biggest client that time, a different client, graciously came and said, "Hey, we really want you to come in house. We know you're going through a lot. Would you be willing to come in? You can run all of our events, which was like 75 global trade shows and 25 regional events and a huge user conference and all this stuff." And I said, I think at this time that would be a good idea. So that
Mhm.
other big client I had had for 5 years, we just absolutely loved each other, so I kept them for another year. My manager said I could. I asked for permission. He said, "Yeah." He goes, "I trust you. Obviously, hire someone else to do a majority of the work," which I did. And then
Yeah.
I would have my meetings with that client during lunch. So, do you see how that worked? I had an income, I had my salary, I had another income, and so that what that did is that gave me the ability that when I was ready to go back out and start
Mm,
my new company, I already had a business plan. I saved all that money from that year from that client so that when I was ready to go, I could leave my job and fly back when I was ready.
that's amazing. Bad thing, good thing, you never know. It's what you make of it, and go with that. When you go back to owning your own business, are there any way of operating the business or things that you're doing that are completely different from when you had the first time your business? Or yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Tell me
Yeah.
about it.
Which I think is awesome, right? It's a huge opportunity. You have a business, you sit back for like a year and a half ish, and then you get to come back in and fix all the things. I mean, who gets the opportunity to do that? Not very many people. The first
Right.
thing I did is I hired an accountant. I didn't want to be an accountant anymore. I hated it. So I hired an accounting team to help me. And then I hired more team members because I was like, I don't need to be doing all this. And I need some team infrastructure. I need to start training. So I hired more people so that I could also focus on sales and infrastructure and building the company at the same time and really trying to scale things a little bit more. And then guess what happened?
And gross.
It grew big time. So I was at the max amount of events I had ever done, ever. And then COVID hit.
Ugh, yeah.
So what'd you do during COVID? What happened to you during COVID?
Me personally, I was the CEO of a SaaS company, which is the ticketing platform using blockchain that FIFA is using. And I was tasked by opening the US, Latin America for them. So believe it or not, we grew during COVID because there was a time where, so you know what? People are more available
Oh,
and they have less pressure if they change their system, which is
oh, love that.
which is what we we took advantage of. But and I wrote a book for my daughter, so why we left Belgium, and and I launched a podcast. So getting myself busy. But and I went through the situation during the subprime. I had my full team. I imagine that when you look at that, there is a very tough decision that you have to take.
Yeah. Well, so what I did is I just pivoted, just like I had done. I was like, look, clients are going away. I was lucky I had some clients stay. So financially, I'm not a huge spender anyway. So it's like, and I'm a huge saver. So financially, I knew I would be okay. I knew it would come back. I just didn't think it'd take as long. So I just pivoted. I did social media marketing, general marketing, project management. I just kind of pivoted a little bit and it was fine. But here's where the opportunity came for me. I had done virtual events before. They just weren't called virtual
Right.
events. It was called live streaming. So at the time, I was a single mom, right? I had to pivot, and I'm also an entrepreneur, obviously. So I was like, this is actually a huge opportunity because everybody was scared. None of you
Absolutely.
ever done it before. Well, I had done it and I'd already been scared. So I just dove right in and we took over the virtual market overnight. And that's how my company, just like yours, just skyrocketed. And so that was a huge success and a huge opportunity. And it worked out really well for us.
So you didn't have to lay off anyone.
We did because it's contractors. We did shrink the contractor base, but then
Yeah.
as soon as we started to grow, which really wasn't that much of a lag. I think it was like March, April, maybe May a little bit. As soon as we got clients, we blossomed. I mean, it was super fun. I was able to hire way more people and provide a new service and have fun learning all these new things, but able to drive it because I had had some of that experience and wasn't afraid to just jump right in.
Were you remote and came back in person afterwards, or how was that structure?
Yeah, my whole team is distributed. So we're all over East Coast, West Coast, Central Europe. We even have representation and help over in Taiwan and Tokyo.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Wonderful.
we're just all over. So we just worked from home and it was the lovely experience to grow the company and a whole nother layer of learning.
Brilliant. How do you maintain culture? How you transmit the values in your company when you have people all over the world?
We have what's called an all brand standard booklet, essentially. So we document our missions, our values, how we communicate together. So it's all documented in all brand standards. It's very detailed, but even the voice and tone, how we onboard people, even down to like our email signature, every single thing that we do, how we open up our meetings with clients, with the team, how we close our meetings, how we send reports, how we communicate with them. Everything emulates our brand constantly.
The full playbook.
Yep, a full playbook. And that was just developed. It's been developing and we've been doing templates and trainings and all sorts of stuff for years. But
Mm.
really, since hiring my chief of staff, that's when she put all the things that we had been doing for years into one all brand standards document.
I guess now you know it afterwards. That is the best thing. But I learned it afterwards that basically when I was successful is that when I had somebody who is completely different than me with different skills that are complementary, so that I can be out with the client, I can be out on project, I can be out selling, and there's another person who's managing the daily activities. So I know too many solopreneur or entrepreneurs in our industry that they want to do everything. They don't want to take the risk to hire somebody else financially, time, ego, mindset, whatever, and they're burning out. I mean, they're burning themselves. So
Yeah, it's tough. Mhm.
when you do that, how did you define what you were going to focus on and what your chief of staff was going to focus on?
That's a very good question. And I'll be honest, because I put myself through grad school all the time, it's constantly evolving. And we have what's called operation meetings. And then I have very streamlined communications with my team. So we have our goals of what we're driving to and our quarterly review. So we know for sure these are the things that everything should tie back to.
Hmm.
But we evolve quickly. So something might shift. So, for example, we're doing a new AI project right now. Our company really is an events company, it's an events and marketing company, but is transforming very quickly to be an AI company. And if
Hmm.
you aren't transforming and leaning into AI, hold the phone because you need to be, right?
Yeah.
Now, you have to use AI very responsibly and very purposefully. But if you don't start exploring it and fully understanding the opportunity behind AI, you will be left behind.
I can only agree with you because the random of the calendar is that this week I've launched my own AI, where a solopreneur, small business owner can ask me questions about growing their business, and so I'm managing their business better. And somebody was telling me, yeah, but then they won't need you. I said, oh yeah, I'm not afraid of that. At the contrary, and please tell me what you think about it and if you see it with your client. The more you have the tech, the more you have the AI, the more people want to come in person and see that they're really talking to you, that the exchange, that the serendipity, the
Right.
conversation. Do you agree with this? And then do you see that with your client?
100%. So we are using AI, and every day we're learning how to better use it. There's a good way to use it, and then there's a terrible way to use it. So the prompts and the AI agents are really, really important. If you don't have that on point, it's going to fail. But the in person connection right now, it's invaluable. So
Hmm.
a trend in the industry is just there's a lot more smaller regional events where people can see each other, they can learn from each other, they can connect afterwards, continue the conversation. And it's not about like who you know. It's
Mm.
about that knowledge sharing. It's the
Mm.
knowledge because we're all trying our very best when we go to work every day, but we only know what we know, right? And it's everything is so fast paced right now. We're seeing ads and AI this and AI that and these updates and all this stuff, but what actually works? It's when you talk to a human and say, I tried that app and it was
Yeah.
garbage. It didn't work. But this one actually does work, or you know what I mean? So that is so important right now, and I do think that's why my company is growing and the event industry in a lot of ways is growing, and I think it's the brand, right? And my growth mindset and the way that
And
I
the culture even.
the
Yep.
culture we've
Absolutely.
created, and hopefully that keeps emulating through our
Absolutely.
clients and our services.
So I want to finish the conversation today and talking about the future. But before we go there, one
Yeah.
question. You mentioned that you have teams in Europe, in Asia. What do you notice in terms of cultural differences, in terms of doing business, and how do you try to make everyone's aware of them when it comes to working in the same company?
Okay, I love this question. Especially as we grow, right? Because there's different personalities, different backgrounds, different cultures. So, yes, there's cultural differences globally, and we look at this as an opportunity also with our customers. They're global, right? So we want to kind of mirror their experience, what they're going through. So that's a huge opportunity. What I'm going to relate this question to is just the background in which people come to with us. So a lot of this has to do with experience. So we
Hmm.
find that to build a successful team, they have to fit our culture. So our very first interview as we're building our team is a culture fit. That's the first, we don't even care if you actually know how to do the job. If you are going to fit the culture, you're going to get in. And how
Yeah.
you're not going to get in is if you're the person who like rolls their eyes or kind of throws people under the bus, you're not going to work here. It's just
Yeah.
not going to fit. It's going to be a waste of time for both people. So that's what we do first to build the team. And then we focus specifically on the skill set of making them successful. So we do very stringent onboarding, but really it's a skill set analysis and then matching the skill sets to that particular client, which can be a little bit tricky because you
Hmm.
get new business coming in and you
Yeah,
say Sally Joe, for example, has hours available. Well, just because she has hours available does not mean I partner her with that client. And that's a tough call because if it can't be successful, I don't want to be involved. I
absolutely.
just won't. So that's the tricky part is making sure that the skill set, the personality, the values, right, all align. And so that's a huge balancing act. And we spend a ton of time on forecasting and really like matchmaking, essentially, watching and learning and growing. We also have a culture of continual feedback. Good
Mm.
feedback and constructive feedback and real-time feedback. So if you and I are on a call together and I think you did a really good job, I'm going to tell you immediately. I'm going to say you did this and this and this and this. Thank you so much. If I think something should have been changed, I will tell you immediately. Love that. Great job. Here's how we can improve. This is how we want to lead the client. This is what the expectations are. Are we in alignment? Okay, sometimes we are not. So, when you feel the swirl or your eyes start to roll or you're not quite sure, that's when we require an alignment call. And so we have a lot of alignment calls, and not that anyone's in trouble or anything like that. It's just making sure everybody is in the same boat, headed in the same direction, and purposely like aligned. And so we do a lot of that.
Wonderful. Where are the people that you work with in Europe based?
We've had Spain, the UK, and the Netherlands is
Right.
mostly where we work with folks, but we'll work with anyone anywhere, really. Hmm.
Of course. And I won't go in the rabbit hole because when I finished my business study, I did a thesis on cultural differences in business. So, but I could already picture. I just give you one quick example. I had a Spanish person in my team in Brussels, and one day I'm hearing the shouting on the phone, really shouting, and I wait for her to finish conversation, and I went, "What's happening?" And she goes, "What?
Yeah,
I mean,
nothing.
you were shouting when? Oh, no, no, no! I'm just talking with an hotel in Madrid." I was like, "Okay, no, never mind."
Yeah,
So
no, we would align very quickly. Like, that's okay if it's a Madrid client and they're used culturally, go for it. But if it's
let-
a US client, we would say, nope.
Nope.
Yep.
That that in Belgium you would say I don't know, and here there people would say I'm not sure. I said, what do you mean you're not sure? You sure you know you don't know? I'm not sure. Anyway, let's finish the conversation today, Lisa, with the future. How do you see your business in the next 10 years?
I want to grow purposefully and healthily. That's where I want to grow. And right now we're growing fast. So, which is great. I love that. I love to be able to provide excellent service to amazing clients all over the world. But if that starts to become not healthy, we will pause.
Mm,
Right. So that's why I've built a lovely team. So we have a event operations manager. We now have a chief of staff, and now I have a part-time EA. So these are my go-to people to help pulse, right? We had to let go of a piece of business this week, a new opportunity. My gut was saying our team can't deliver 110% on this project.
mm,
So we actually declined it. So that's how I want to grow and then really provide even more layers of better customer service, right? That's so right now we know we're good at what we do. We're good at
mm.
logistics, at marketing, production, experiential. What I'd like to improve on is customer service. So I'm focusing on that because when you have champions and you have happy customers, that's really how you grow. We grow
Yeah.
because our customers love us.
How do you measure the customer service? Do you do like NPS score or what is it?
Yeah, we do have an NPS score. We have a client survey too. So at the end, we do send a survey just asking them how we did. And then I check in about once a month, depending on the client, and just say, like, hey, how's it going? How's our team performing for you? Do we need to change anything? And all of that is built into the client workback schedule. So they know it's coming. So our whole CS strategy is built into their event workback schedule, built it all
Wow.
in. So
Yeah.
we're held accountable. They know it's coming,
Yeah.
right? And so we did have it outside, but this year we moved it inside the customer workbook schedule.
Is there anything that you're doing today that you think you will not be doing in 10 years in the frame of your business? That things that you say, you know what, I should not be involved in this anymore.
Well, in 10 years, I don't know, I may be retired.
I don't believe that.
We'll
People
probably
like you
have
and me
another
are
company.
entrepreneurs. Exactly. Exactly. You know,
Oh,
the retired is like re-dash tired.
yeah. I already have ideas of what I want to do. Okay, 10 years from now, to my 10-year self, what I'd like to do is be in experiential production. That's where I'd love to be. Whether that's in AI or working with a big production company or who knows what. Maybe in 10 years, just high level, like amazing production where I'm experiential. But I think right now, I'm still working on getting out of being in the center of the company. So, what we're working on is building middle management and accountability. And so that's what we're focused on right now. So, in 5 years, even a year from now, 2 years from now, what I'd like is a little bit more management help and systems and processes for accountability. And so that's really what we're focusing on right now. A lot can change in our industry in a year. So, let's just scoot into the 2 years. No, that's where we'll go.
I'm all for system and processes. Although I'm more the ADHD type, and there is no way you can grow and operate a business without system and processes. So
Yeah.
kudos for you. I have one last question before that. How do people get in touch with you if they want to speak with you?
Yeah, you can just find us on our website. So it's just gregoryevents.com. And then on the page, you click on contact us, and they can contact us there if they just have questions, they want to work with us. And then it's important to know I did start that nonprofit. I started the Event Professionals Network, which is a
Yep.
free Slack room with over 900 event professionals globally. They
Wow.
can also go to our website, just gregoryevents.com, and they can click to apply to get in there. The membership is free. We do monthly webinars and we just empower our community. And the reason why I do that is because, well, I think I was put on the earth for a purpose. I wasn't put on the earth to run a company. I was put on the earth to be purposeful. And so my purpose is to really gather people and up level people. And that is my purpose. So that's my purpose driven work is that nonprofit.
That's wonderful. And my purpose is to protect and create connection. So I'll create opportunities. So Lisa, my last question. When you and I sit down in a year time with a glass of champagne, what are we going to celebrate?
What are we going to celebrate? Oh, that's a good question. Hopefully that I have an even stronger team, right? That I have some really like that we're just maybe doing bigger and better events, working with like tons of different types of companies. Right now, we're spreading our wings into different verticals. And so, who knows what we'll be doing in a year? We could be doing tons of different verticals. Right now, we're focused on tech, healthcare, education, a little bit of wine because wine is delicious, but we're kind of pretty focused. So maybe we'll be working on some other verticals and have some other, some big client wins. That's what I think that. And then just making sure our team is continually focusing on health. If I can get my team to not max out right before an event and be working 60 hours a week right before, and just we have every single event, we try to bring in support and more support. What I'd like to do is I'd like to see my team not kind of get into that burnout realm, keep our
Hmm,
hours down, make sure we're being very strategic. So those are kind of the two big things, new accounts and just a healthy team.
wonderful. Lisa, thank you so much. Safe travels. And thank you for taking the time to speak with me today.
Of course. Thank you. It was lovely. I really appreciate you inviting me on. And to anybody that's listening, thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Business of Meeting podcast. I hope you found today's episode valuable. If you enjoyed the show, the most important thing you can do is leave a review and share it with your colleagues. It really helps spread the word. I truly appreciate your support. And if you're ready to take your business to the next level, don't forget to visit eventbusinessformula.com to learn more about how we are helping even business owners like you. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time.